The marble corridors of Hartwell Financial gleamed under the soft lighting as morning meetings began throughout the 40-story tower. The executive floors hummed with the quiet efficiency of a successful investment firm, where million-dollar decisions were made with the same calm precision as ordering coffee. Sarah Bennett hurried through the hallway toward the administrative offices, her blonde hair pulled back in a neat bun beneath her blue uniform. At 31, Sarah had worked as a custodial supervisor at Hartwell Financial for 18 months, a job that provided steady income and health insurance for her and her 5-year-old daughter, Emma. Today, however, Sarah faced an impossible situation. Emma's daycare had called that morning to report that the little girl had developed a fever and needed to be picked up immediately. With no family nearby and no backup childcare options, Sarah had made the difficult decision to bring Emma to work with her, hoping to keep the child comfortable in her office while managing her supervisory duties. Emma walked beside her mother down the elegant hallway, clutching her favorite stuffed sheep and wearing a gray sweater over her red knitted scarf. Despite her fever, the little girl's blonde curls framed a face that remained curious about her surroundings, though her usual energy was dampened by illness. "Mama." "This place is so fancy," Emma whispered, her voice slightly hoarse from her cold. "Are you sure it's okay for me to be here?" Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand gently. "It's just for today, sweetheart. You can rest in my office while Mama finishes her work. And then we'll go home and make some soup." What Sarah didn't know was that this particular morning marked the first day for Hartwell Financial's new CEO. James Mitchell had taken over the company just 2 weeks ago, and today he was conducting his first walkthrough of all departments to meet employees and understand the company's operations from the ground up. At 36, James had built his career on the belief that successful leadership required understanding every level of an organization. He made it a priority to learn the names and roles of employees from the mailroom to the boardroom, recognizing that a company's true strength lay in the dedication of all its workers, not just the executive team. As James walked through the administrative wing with his assistant, he noticed a small figure in a red scarf sitting in what appeared to be a supply office. His business instincts immediately questioned why a child would be in the building, but before he could ask his assistant about it, he decided to investigate personally. James approached the office where Emma sat quietly, coloring in a book while Sarah organized cleaning schedules at her desk. The little girl looked up when she sensed someone at the doorway, and her face immediately broke into a bright smile of recognition. "Daddy!" Emma exclaimed with joy, dropping her crayon and rushing toward James with the uninhibited enthusiasm that only young children possessed. James froze completely, his mind racing to process what had just happened. The little girl had wrapped her arms around his legs and was looking up at him with absolute delight, clearly believing she knew him. Sarah spun around from her desk, her face flushing with embarrassment and panic. "Emma, no! I'm so sorry, sir. She's not feeling well today, and sometimes when children have fevers, they get confused." But as Sarah looked more closely at the man her daughter had embraced, she felt her own world shift dramatically. The face she was looking at was indeed familiar, though she hadn't seen it in over 6 years. James stared down at the little girl, then looked at Sarah with growing recognition and disbelief. Sarah Bennett? Is that really you?" Emma, still clinging to James's legs, looked up at him with confusion. "Daddy, why do you look surprised?" "Mama said you had to go away for work, but I knew you'd come back." Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes as the impossible situation unfolded before her. "James, I can explain." "Emma, sweetheart, come here to Mama." But James was still processing the implications of what Emma had called him, and what it might mean about the timeline of their past relationship. "Sarah, how old is Emma?" James asked quietly, his voice carrying a mixture of shock and something that might have been hope. "She's 5, Sarah replied, barely above a whisper. "She'll be 6 in March." James did quick mental calculations, remembering when he and Sarah had dated briefly during his final year of graduate school, before he had left Chicago to take a position with a firm in New York. The timing aligned perfectly with Emma's age, and looking at the little girl's features, he could see resemblances he had initially attributed to coincidence. "Sarah, why didn't you tell me?" James asked, his voice heavy with emotion as he knelt down to Emma's eye level. Emma, sensing the serious tone of the adult conversation, looked between her mother and the man she had called Daddy with growing uncertainty. "Mama, is this really my daddy? The one you said might come back someday?" Sarah struggled to find words that would be appropriate for both her daughter and the man who was apparently now her boss, as well as possibly Emma's father. "Emma, this is James. We knew each other before you were born. And yes, sweetheart, he might be your daddy. But we need to talk about some grown-up things first." James stood up slowly, his mind reeling from the revelation. "Sarah, I had no idea. When I left for New York, I tried to call you several times, but your number had been disconnected. I thought you had decided you didn't want to continue our relationship." "I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after you left," Sarah explained, her voice shaking slightly. "I tried to contact you through your graduate program, but they said you had already moved and left no forwarding information. I didn't have enough money to hire investigators or pursue it further." James felt a crushing weight of regret as he realized how different all their lives might have been if communication had been better 6 years ago. Emma, who had been listening to this conversation with the intense focus that children brought to discussions about their own lives, suddenly spoke up. "So you are my daddy, but you didn't know about me?" she asked James directly, with the kind of straightforward honesty that adults often found both refreshing and challenging. James looked into Emma's eyes, seeing Sarah's intelligence combined with features that he now recognized as his own. "Emma, it looks like I am your daddy, and I'm very sorry that I didn't know about you until now. If I had known, I would have been here with you and your mama from the very beginning." Emma considered this explanation with the seriousness that sick children often brought to important revelations. "Mama said you had important work to do far away, and that's why you couldn't be with us. But now you're here, so does that mean you can stay?" James looked at Sarah, realizing that she had created an explanation for his absence that protected Emma's sense of self-worth while maintaining hope for his eventual return. "Emma, I work here now, which means I live here in Chicago again. And now that I know about you, I very much want to be part of your life. If that's okay with you and your mama?" Sarah felt overwhelmed by the rapid turn of events, but seeing the hope in her daughter's eyes, she knew that this unexpected reunion, however complicated, could be the answer to prayers she had almost stopped praying. "James," Sarah said quietly, "we should probably talk privately about how to handle this situation. Emma needs to rest, and there are a lot of practical matters we need to discuss." James nodded, his business training helping him organize his thoughts despite the emotional upheaval. "Sarah, first, please don't worry about bringing Emma to work today. Family emergencies happen, and any decent employer should understand that. Second, I think we should arrange for DNA testing to confirm what we both suspect. Not because I doubt it, but because Emma deserves official documentation of her parentage." He paused, looking at Emma, who was now sitting back down with her coloring book but clearly listening to every word. "Most importantly, I want to make sure we handle this in a way that's best for Emma. She's been without a father for 5 years, and I don't want to disrupt her life more than necessary, but I also want to begin building a relationship with her immediately." Emma looked up from her coloring. "Daddy James, will you stay until Mama's work is done? I don't feel very good, and it would be nice to have both my parents here." James felt his heart break and heal simultaneously at hearing himself called Daddy James by this remarkable little girl who seemed to be handling the situation with more grace than either of the adults. "Of course, Emma, I'll stay with you and Mama, and we're going to make sure you feel better very soon." As the day progressed, James canceled his remaining meetings and spent the afternoon in Sarah's office, getting to know his daughter while discussing the logistics of integrating their lives. Emma napped on a small couch, occasionally waking to find both her parents nearby, which seemed to provide her with a comfort she had never experienced before. By evening, James had arranged for a pediatric physician to make a house call to check on Emma's illness, and he had begun the process of legally acknowledging his paternity. More importantly, he had started the delicate work of building trust with both Sarah and Emma, recognizing that becoming a family would require patience, commitment, and a willingness to prioritize their needs. above his own convenience. The desperate single mother, who had brought her sick daughter to work, had unknowingly reunited a family that had been separated by miscommunication and circumstances. And the new CEO, who had planned to spend his first day learning about company operations, had instead discovered the most important role of his life, being a father to a remarkable little girl who had been waiting for him to come home. Thank you for listening to this story about unexpected family reunions and second chances. If this tale touched your heart and reminded you that sometimes life's most important moments happen when we least expect them, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in the power of family connections, and subscribe for more stories celebrating the beautiful complexity of human relationships. We'd love to hear in the comments about times when unexpected encounters led to life-changing revelations, or when miscommunications were finally resolved in ways that brought families together. Remember, sometimes the most important meetings on our calendar are the ones that happen by accident, and the most valuable discoveries are the ones that find us when we're simply trying to do our best with difficult circumstances.